Okay, so we're about to start our next lecture. Welcome back after the break. Izabela Krupa and Paweł Słowikowski, both former employees of Nokia. I should mention it because they actually met 6 years ago while being actively engaged, among many others, in organizing the first ever Code Dive conference. Now, with 10 years of experience in IT as Scrum Masters and Agile coaches and in other roles, they are people on a mission, and their mission is to develop organizations to not only deliver their what they promise to deliver, but also to simply become a good place to work and develop to their fullest potential. And today they will tell us what they're best at. So self-organizing teams, which apparently is easier said than done. Please give a warm welcome to Izabela Krupa and Paweł Słowikowski.
Okay, so hello. I think you can hear me. I'm Izabela. This is Paweł, obviously.
Hello.
Welcome at our presentation. Before we will start, we would like to thank you for sharing your time with us. So, easier said than done, self-organized teams. So, during a decade, I've been working in teams in experiencing different roles. Being a team member and also a person responsible for team development. And recently, I got a new team. And that was the moment when I decided to review my duties, my responsibilities. At the top of the list, there was coaching the development team in self-organization. And I was thinking, okay, if my responsibility is to coach the team, do I know what are the key elements of self-organization? Do I know when my team is self-organized or not? And among all those 10 years, I was thinking that I met teams which were barely self-organized and teams which were quite good organized. This thought process led me to study more about self-organization and led me today to this stage. As I wasn't sure what will be my state today, obviously because of this little girl in my body, I invited Paweł because I really value to join me, because I really value his experience and knowledge. And if anything happens, I know that he will give equally qualitatively speech. So, Paweł, the stage is yours.
Okay, so let's hope that nothing happens. What's the agenda for today? For our presentation, basically we will tell you why build teams at all. So what's so special about investing in teams? Why should we actually do it? And when we will talk about this a little bit, then we'll tell you how to actually get there. So how does a work group develops into team? What are the key elements along the way, like conflicts, dysfunctions, and so on? We'll talk about leadership a bit and how it is also crucial for developing teams. We'll talk about benefits of self-organizations and what lies beyond self-organization. So this is something that we'll discuss at the end. Before we start, we have a challenge for you. We have an exercise for you. I know this is like a speaking conference, but we also come from a practitioners, trainers background, and we would like you to get involved in this exercise for you. Are you up for it? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So first thing is I would like you to stand up. Oh, that's amazing. It actually went pretty well. So there are some rules to this exercise. So first rule is like each row works separately. So each row is a group. So you'll be doing this exercise in a row. And you cannot talk to each other during this exercise. You cannot communicate verbally. So the challenge is, the goal is, to sort yourselves in those rows by the month you have started your most recent work. There are 12 months in in a year. So those closer to January would be on my left-hand side, and those closer to December would be on the right-hand side. Okay, so no talking. This is the challenge. Sort yourselves by the month that you have started your most recent work. Okay, I can see that those rows closer to me are already finished. There's still some movement over there, so we'll wait a bit. Okay, more or less. Okay, you can talk now. So check how you did. Is this the correct order? And how was it for you? Just you can discuss now. Did you get it right? Perfect. I've heard perfect. Great. Okay, you can sit down. Thank you. Bravo for you. Bravo. So, this went amazing. Actually, I was surprised. So what we did, what you did actually, you self-organized as groups of people. So this is self-organization. Thank you very much. We're done. Just joking. Just joking. So three key elements were present for you to self-organize. So actually, you had a goal to sort yourselves as groups. You had autonomy because we provided you with some rules like no speaking, do it only in one row. And then you also had intrinsic motivation. So you were you had a positive attitude toward doing it actually because you're here, you're open to learning new stuff, and maybe you also like us. So you actually did the exercise. You self-organized in those in this kind of environment. But this is not enough for teams. And Izabela will take over with why build teams.
Okay, so before I will start, I would just like to set the stage. All materials we prepared for today are based on some research and models. And at the last stage of this presentation, you will find all references. And if you find any of this topic interesting, I encourage you to go to the references and read about it, because obviously today we will only give you a snapshot of information. And if, as I said, if you are interested in, please go there directly. So why build teams? Put yourself into entrepreneur shoes. As an entrepreneur, I would like to invest something into a project. But before that, I have to make a decision. Do I want to invest in teams, or I need only individuals to do my work. And there are 3 elements which I should take into account. First is risk management, and second one is collective intelligence. Of course, they are not the only elements. So, risk management. If we have a team, we reduce bottlenecks. We also mitigate the risk of mistakes and mitigate consequences of random situations. So, buzz factor is quite high. Collective intelligence is something which was discovered by Anita Woolley and her team in 2010. And collective intelligence seems to embrace when the group collaboratively work together and is visible during making decision process of making decision. And what Anita and Woolley team discovered is that IQ of a group, of a team, can be higher than IQ of the most intelligent person in this group, which means that there is a chance to create a group of people, or there is a chance to create a team which will give smarter results than the smartest person in this group. But also, Anita Woolley research shows that not all teams will have high collective intelligence. Some of them will have low collective intelligence. In 2013, also, Anita Woolley discovered that there are some tasks which are done better by individuals, and such tasks are simple tasks or tasks which benefit from high level of insight and coherence, like some art, etc. As entrepreneur, we have to also take into account profitability. And Paweł, in a moment, will show you that creating a team is an investment. There is also element of groupthink, but we will not discuss more about groupthink. This is something which I hope you will find interesting and Google. Okay, so Paweł, how to get there? How to create a team?
Thank you, Izabela. So, if we decide that actually we want to have this benefit of creating a team, of collective intelligence, limiting risks, buzz factor, and so on, we need to be aware that this process takes time and resources. Building a team is an investment, and at first the results might not be what you actually expect. So, as you can see, when we graph performance of a group or a team and correlate it with maturity, you can see that work group at the beginning, like a loose group of people that are maybe integrated by a leader or manager, has a better performance than the initial stage of a team, when the team just starts to build up. And to get a higher performance, better results, you need to have a team of higher maturity, and it takes time. It's not always necessary to build a team. It's not always necessary to place teams in every single place in an organization. Work groups are also fine. They have their place in an organization. When you want to fix something quickly, when you want to organize to, I don't know, put down a fire in a project or solve a problem, then creating a work group is fine. Usually it's like a loose loose collection of people, can be any size. Usually it's driven by some sort of a leader that integrates the work results of those different people in a work group. But if you want to have long-lasting performance, if you need some long-lasting creative tasks to be performed or product to be developed, then the team is the way to go. With some restrictions, of course, like the size of the team is usually much smaller than a work group, and is limited by the connections of communication lines between the team. And there are some theories on how groups develop into teams. Maybe you heard about Tuckman model, but actually there's few research, not enough research that I found actually regarding the process of group development. However, I discovered this study from 2003 by Susan Wheelan, and she actually found a correlation between how between the life span of a group, or like in which how much life how long the group works together, and what kind of communication is exchanged inside this group between those group members. And she not only ran some surveys or self-assessments, but she actually had a look at over 100 teams and in different institutions, and she also recorded meetings of 26 of those groups. And she and her research team analyzed the conversations that were exchanged in those meetings between team members, and they find out that there is a correlation between different types of communication that are exchanged and the time the group works together. So she distinguished 4 phases with different level of efficiency in each phase. As you can see, at first there's focus on leader and building relations, and then as we go in time, as group works longer together, there is more focus on work and results. So she basically confirmed that there are different stages of group development process, and we believe that the team is starting to form somewhere in phase 3, when there's starting when the trust and structure is starting to arise. And in order to reach this stage, or the 4th stage, her research shows that it takes between 5 and 8 months for a group. So this is why building a team is an investment, because it takes so much time. And if we have like shorter projects, it really makes it hard to build a proper team. And Izabela will talk about this in a moment. The crucial phase of group development process on the road to building a team or self-organized team is the conflict phase. This is something that most high-effective teams actually go through. And Izabela?
Okay, so now it's my turn. So, Patrick Lencioni, in his book, The 5 Dysfunctions of Highly Effective Teams, shows that there are obviously 5 dysfunctions in building a team, but one of them, which is quite low on this pyramid, is fear of conflict. And he also showed that, because obviously or in general, people don't like to argue and don't like to have war, etc. But there is a type of conflict which is needed in a team to really create a team, or needed in group to create a team. And to have this conflict, to be able to continue work in a team. And this conflict is productive conflict. So if we have a range, at the beginning we have artificial harmony, and at the end of this range we have an open war. Obviously, as I said, no one would like to be in an open war. It's not a comfortable situation. But for group development or for teams, it's also not good to be in artificial harmony. In artificial harmony, people are not really honest with each other. They really avoid each other. They avoid sharing their ideas, sharing their arguments. So what is suggested for teams, or to build a team, is to try to move from artificial harmony into the direction of this word, but to step by step go and stop unproductive conflict. In the productive conflict, teams behave in an open way. They are respectful, or people are respectful to each other. They feel comfortable to share their ideas and comfortable with arguing. But also, Lencioni showed that all teams should cross this barrier and go to destructive conflict. But when they are in this destructive conflict, they will learn, or hopefully they will learn, that they can always come back to productive conflict. So if you feel that you are now in a teams, and for example, you cross this barrier and now you are in destructive conflict, don't worry. There's always chance to come back. And what also Lencioni suggests is that if you learn to come back, you will build trust in the team, and relationship in the team will be stronger. So, next element is proactivity and assertiveness. And this is more related to individuals, which of course building teams. But let's define what proactivity is, because most of the time I hear that proactivity is when someone is very active, when someone raises a hand, when someone is loud or share their ideas, even if the ideas are quite stupid. But I personally like the proactivity model described by Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teams. And Covey said that proactivity is a place where you choose, you respond on stimulus. So you are not driven by emotion or by inner mechanism, but based on your self-awareness, imagination, conscious or independent will, you choose the response. Assertiveness, on the other hand, is also needed for such team member to facilitate team creation. And assertiveness is a set of behavior expressing wishes, beliefs, rights, etc. in firm, clear and honest way with respect to others and ourselves. And if we combine proactivity and assertiveness, those are two attitudes we expect from team member to facilitate team building. Imagine a situation that you are on the meeting and one of the person is very aggressive. Have you experienced such situation that the person shouts at, is loud, etc.? Nodding head. Okay, so I experienced that, and I hope I'm not the only one. In such situation, proactive and assertive person would react on this situation, but not in a way that this person would start shouting, but will try to facilitate the meeting, maybe suggest a break, maybe suggest that meeting should be stopped and moved, and conversation should be moved to another meeting. Okay. And leadership. And I hope you are surprised why we want to talk about leadership in terms of teams and self-organized teams. It's because we believe that in team, everyone is a leader and should take responsibility of a leader. And there is one guy, or was, Ken Blanchard, who created a model of situational leadership. And situational leadership model says that there is no single perfect leadership style, and that leadership style should be adjusted to person readiness. So, and person readiness is dependent on competence and commitment. If you think about enthusiastic novice and independent experts, so people who are highly committed, those people need just clear information what is to do. Of course, enthusiastic novice will need more support, will need some deadlines, maybe smaller tasks or simpler tasks. But in general, they just need to know what is to do. On the other hand, we have disappointed adept or, competent and careful practitioner. And those people who are not so committed to work, they need a little bit more support, but not support in terms of tasks to do, but support in terms of asking, how do you feel? Do you have any blockers? Are there any impediments? Is anything which frustrates you, etc. And as a team member, you should identify which or what is the readiness of other team members in your team and adjust your conversation to this person's readiness. And at this second end of the stick, if you are a team member, you should also check what is your personal readiness. Are you enthusiastic novice or maybe independent expert? And somehow expect from people what you can expect. So expect simple tasks or expect some support. Okay, so at the end we wanted to summarize this module with an ideal person, ideal team member. So if a person will build a team or will facilitate building a team, this person should be proactive, assertive, able to adjust style to cooperation, trust in conflict, and at the end, care about equal contribution. And we haven't spoken about equal contribution, but it's something which I will discuss in the next module. So, benefits of self-organization. Up till now, we just discussed teams. So, starting from group development, through all phases, through attitudes which should have team members to become a team. But the next step is self-organization. And there are 3 elements which we would like to highlight in terms of self-organization. It's collective intelligence, intrinsic motivation, and system complexity. Let's start from system complexity. And this part is taken from book of Jürgen Appello, Management 3.0 Workout. So Jürgen wrote that if we have system A and we want to control system A by system B should be more complex than system A. And if we take this part into our field, people field, it means that system A is a team. If we want to control the team, the manager of such team or the leader of such team should be smarter than whole team. So our leader would be system B. Is it possible that a single person is smarter than whole team? I will leave it to your judgment. But what Anita Woolley, maybe I'll come back, research shows is that the women which did some research about collective intelligence is that in all teams where there were a leader, those teams were never highly collectively intelligent. Unfortunately, their collective intelligence was low. So, next element of self-organization or the benefit of self-organization is collective intelligence. And there are 3 main factors which seems to facilitate collective intelligence. It's social perceptiveness, equality of contribution, low or moderate cognitive diversity. And I hope you don't understand those 3 factors, because when I wrote those studies, I also didn't understand that. So, social perceptiveness is ability of people to predict reaction of others and also understand this reaction. And what's funny that social perceptiveness is measured with the same test as spectrum of autism. low or moderate cognitive diversity. Cognitive diversity is a way how people process data, how people learn, and we have two main groups. We have visualizers and verbalizers. But both those groups, visualizers and verbalizers, can be divided into subgroup. And to create high collective intelligence team, we have to have low or moderate cognitive diversity. It means, in simple words, that people just have to have common language of communication, just to be easier to communicate with. And in the middle, we have equal contribution. And this is something which you can introduce into your teams immediately, because obviously social perceptiveness, I'm not sure if you have really influence on that. Same for low or moderate cognitive diversity. There are some tricks you can use, but in general, the first element which you can introduce right away is equality of contribution. So if you are at the meeting, you can always try to facilitate the meeting and engage people who are usually not engaged, who don't share their ideas. And if you do that, there is a chance that your team will increase, or your collective intelligence in team will increase. Third element, which is for sure benefit of self-organization, is intrinsic motivation. And intrinsic motivation is much stronger than extrinsic motivation. But it's impossible to motivate people by or creating of intrinsic motivation by touching them or doing anything else. The only way to create this intrinsic motivation is to create good working environment. And this working environment, according to Daniel Pink, which he described in his book Drive, is to give people autonomy, purpose, and possibility to develop so that they have mastery. And this is something which I hope now you can bridge with our first exercise. So what we saw, and Paweł was quite shocked, is that you all wanted to join in our exercise and participate in it because your intrinsic motivation was quite high. It's possible to create an extrinsic motivation, which is called the carrot and the stick and carrot. But extrinsic motivation is not so strong, or is weak, or weaker than intrinsic motivation. That's why in self-organized teams, one of the benefits, quite big benefit, is that people have intrinsic motivation to work. Okay, but that's not the end. After self-organization, we have something more, and Paweł will tell you more about what lies beyond.
Okay, so we talked about self-organized teams, but there's more. There are next steps you can achieve with a team, next levels, and there's a concept of self-managing teams, self-managed teams. There are concepts of like Teal level organizations. There are frameworks like Holacracy. What's the difference? So self-organization, when you have a team that owns how the tasks are performed, they split the tasks between themselves, they move around in an autonomy provided by the organization, and basically usually own development of the product, for example, and planning. Maybe they also own priorities or influence priorities. And in self-management, it's just the circle of responsibility or autonomy given to the team is wider, and the teams own more and more elements of the whole value delivery process. So they own HR aspects, marketing, budgets, priorities. They basically own their businesses, and there are organizations and frameworks that support that. Like my current company is currently developing, is transitioning to Holacracy, and this is quite different approach than usually even we as Scrum Masters are used to in self-organized teams. This is really self-managing. This is something that each person knows what he or she is accountable for, and can make decisions in those local areas that they are responsible for. The decisions they don't have to, they don't need to ask anyone's permissions to actually decide something. There's this concept of like being a local monarch for this area, and also other in organization know what to expect of you, who can make what kind of decisions in the organization. And if you're interested in talking about like what's beyond in self-management, I'm also available after this presentation. Well, the road is open. So self-organization is not the end. We still can move forward after that. And to summarize what we have been discussing so far, there are 4 elements that you're looking for, or symptoms that you're looking for when you think about self-organized teams. And this is basically the autonomy. So it has to be given by the organization to a team. The boundaries that they move around and make decisions in those boundaries. There has to be a common goal or purpose that's binding the team, like the goal that the teams moves towards to, and this goal becomes more important than individual goals of those team members. And you're also looking for productive conflict, as Izabela discussed, and this level of open communication that allows other people to actually disagree with you, but with no personal emotions attached or personal attacks attached to this discussion. And last but not least, you're looking for leadership that's maybe local for each team member. Maybe different team members rise to a leadership role in different situations, but the leadership and picking the right leadership style in a different situation, this is the key of this element. So in the end, we've fast forwarded through our presentation actually. But in the end, raise your hand if you think, based on what we said, you are really working in a team. Okay. Some of you raise your hand. Yeah. And again, raise your hand if you believe you're working in a self-organized team. Okay.
So, just to summarize, most of you raise your hand when we ask about teams, but like half of those raised hands when we ask about self-organized teams.
And now it's time for questions.
But as I promised, I will move to the next slide, which are references. And I really encourage you to read those studies by Anita Woolley. She and her team, they started in 2010, but after that they really continue working and continue research. And right now they have really very interesting insights.
Okay, shall we proceed with the Q&As then?
Yes.
Okay, we have a question in here.
First of all, thanks for the talk. And my question is, does a self-organized team make Scrum Masters obsolete?
As I said at the beginning, currently I work as Scrum Master, and at the top of my list of responsibility is coach the team in self-organization. So when I started working with a team, first I should evaluate at which step team is, or at which phase team is, or a group of people is, and show people how they can behave to create self-organized teams. So I would say that involvement of Scrum Master depends on phase on which group of people is. If it's at the end, if it's self-organized teams, involvement of Scrum Master is much smaller than at the beginning, if we have a group of people and they have just met and they starting whole process. Hope I answer your question.
Also, one more thing to add. Yeah, basically we want to be, we work towards being obsolete and have the team distribute the responsibility in such a way that they can do most of the things themselves. But the moment that the shape of the team changes, like new people joining in, people leaving the team, the conflict phase will probably start again. And there might be need for Scrum Master support again.
Oh, and one more thing. So when I read research done by Susan Wheelan, yeah, and Paweł presented those research, I was very interested in discovery that to go to phase number 4, the teams need, or group of people needs 5 up to 8 months. And I was happy that I found those research, because at all interviews I've been asked how long it will take you to create a team. And those research done by Susan Wheelan haven't done those research in the case where there is additional person like a Scrum Master facilitating the process. So teams were, or a group of people were left alone, and they pass whole this process alone without Scrum Masters. So this is just a discovery. I hope that they or someone will continue such research and such studies, and they will maybe show, is there an influence, or is it possible that group of people will go to phase number 4 faster if there is Scrum Master or anyone else responsible for taking the group of people into those phases or through those phases.
Okay, one question.
Hi. Is every team capable of self-organization?
If any team, sorry?
Is every team capable of self-organization, or there is a situation when it's impossible?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question. We made an experiment with you guys in the beginning of this presentation. We basically allowed you to self-organize. So, but it was a simple goal to perform, right? So it was something that did not expand beyond your comfort zone too much. So I guess the answer is it depends on the situation, on the goals, on the environment.
I think that also Anita Woolley research will come with the answer, because as I said, she was able, and her team to discover that there are high collectively intelligent team and low collectively intelligent team, which means that for low collectively intelligent teams, those people were just not so smart as individuals in those teams. So I would say that for those people, it will be very hard to create team and very hard to create self-organized teams. And I'm not sure if those people should really work in the team. Maybe preference, maybe better would be to for them to work as individuals, because the result of their work will be better, smarter, I would say.
Hi. You showed the pyramid of dysfunctions in the team. I understand that this is some kind of visual, but could you say what does it really represent? What's the base of the pyramid? Is it most often dysfunction, or there is other relation between them?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I also encourage you to read this book of Patrick Lencioni, because I personally found it very interesting. So he said that there are 5 dysfunctions, and not all group of people can go through the process of team development, team creation. At the bottom is absence of trust. So if people in the team don't trust each other, it's impossible to create a team. Then we have fear of conflict, which we discussed, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. Sorry. And if we have those 5 dysfunctions, it's impossible to create a team. And Lencioni also, in his book, showed that with those 5 dysfunctions, people just don't play in the same team. They just have, they don't have common purpose. They try to achieve personal goals instead of team goal. So, for example, if we have a team and if we have individual who would like to be promoted or something, this person would play for himself, not for the team. And this is one of the signs of dysfunction.
Okay, but what I meant is, why is it a pyramid? Does it mean that absence of trust is the most common? If I see the nutrition pyramid, I know that I should eat most vegetables, right? And what's done here?
I think it's a pyramid, and Lencioni also show it as a pyramid, because at the bottom of the pyramid, at the bottom of all problems, is absence of trust.
So the most heavy and most influential dysfunctions are at the bottom. Yeah. So absence of trust and fear of conflict, and we go up. So if we need to or want to remove those elephants in the room, we usually start at the bottom of this pyramid. Mm-hmm. You know, those things at the bottom are less visible than those things at the top. Yeah. The symptoms are less easy to spot.
Okay, and if I can, another question.
To microphone.
Yeah, sorry. So you showed the types of conflicts, right? And do you think the team goes through these phases or types of conflicts as a team, or each member just has to learn it on their own separately? Does this experience transpire, or it goes to the next team with the member?
I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly, but
so I mean that I think I understand what the productive conflict is, and I can notice when it's productive. And I think if I go to the next team, I will be able to notice that and will not just go into other phases, because I know this counterproductive. So that's what I mean, if it's a phase of a team or a member.
So I would say that if a team member knows what is constructive or productive conflict, that's perfect. But as a team member, you are not participating in all conversations, in all discussions, and even if you have this knowledge, would be great if you could share that and teach your team or other team members, but it will not prevent from situations that people will go to the next step of destructive conflict.
Hi. I've got a question considering what do you do if team building at some phase screws up? Like, do you intervene? Do you rearrange teams? Or do you just see whether things go back into place or not?
I think that most of the time it doesn't depend on us, really, because we are in organizations, and for me and for Paweł, we both works in software house, and the nature of software house is that if we have a team, but there is a need to take a person out of the team to a different project, organizations will just make this decision. So it's not always our decision or our even recommendation. But if we see that there is something wrong in the team, first of all, or at the first step, we would like to, or we will try to solve it in the team on the team level, and try to encourage team members to solve this problem by them own. Then we will try to solve it or help the team to solve the problem, and next steps are just escalation. Hope I answer your question.
I also like to drag the problem into the light of the team. So if there's a problem, there's an elephant in the room, and there's a fear of conflict, and people just don't want to talk about it, don't want to offend someone. I'm doing my best to bring this topic to the light of the team and discussing, even if it's hard to do. And sometimes it's an unpleasant discussion, but it's very much needed. Okay.
Okay, so I have two questions, if I may. The first one is about the pyramid of conflict. And I'm a Scrum Master in a small team, and I feel the team is quite mature, actually. But I would say that our problem is that we stick in the base level. So we have this artificial harmony where we are afraid of conflict. And the question is, should I, as a Scrum Master, in a way, nurture conflict in my team to get to the productive conflict phase, or influence my team in a way that they understand maybe what's productive conflict and nudge them in this direction?
So if your team is in artificial harmony, for sure you can try to facilitate discussions, because in this stage, in this level of artificial harmony, people, as I said, will not be really honest with each other and will not share their opinions. So you, as a Scrum Master, can facilitate meetings and facilitate discussion and involve people who are quiet, and in that way engage people into a discussion, hoping that they will really share their ideas and someone will disagree with the idea, which will go to or drive the team to productive conflict.
Okay, sorry.
You can also try some individual one-to-one meetings with team members and asking them what's going on, reflecting your observations to them, asking what to do, how can we change that. I've done it before, so when there's just this tension and these difficult topics are not being tackled as a whole team, I started to discuss individually what's going on with each team member.
And I think that most likely, or maybe I just experienced that most likely if team or people are in this harmony level, they somehow express their feelings. So they maybe some, I don't know, they just complain, or they just complain loudly at open space, or just complain at a coffee or something. So there are some possibilities, or possibilities to check that we are in this harmony level and act.
But what if the harmony isn't artificial? Like, what if the people just don't have conflicting ideas? Because I wonder if the conflict is necessary to facilitate growth or having good ideas. Maybe we simply have similar ideas and don't have the need to debate them very strongly. You think it's possible?
I think it's impossible because people are unexpected, and if I haven't met two people which would agree on every topic personally, I haven't. They seems to be agree, but that would be the harmony, and that would mean that this person avoid discussion. And there is also one very good model which describe people answers on the response. So answers, and it depends on assertiveness and person ability to cooperate. And if the assertiveness of person and ability to cooperate is low, it means that this person will avoid conflict. And in general, it will mean that in the team, if we have such a person, so which is not assertive and don't have ability to cooperate, this person will avoid the conflict. And maybe I will show you also, this slide. So such people would be passive in the discussions.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's the problem. The being passive of team members.
Yeah. That's right. That's a problem.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Witam. Cześć. I would like to ask about leadership. You mentioned that to build a self-organized team, we need leadership, but leadership is, in my opinion, is a feature for a low for the teams where members are rather low intelligent. So how it can
That's
be
interesting
acquired.
point of view. I would say that
Strong leadership, let's say.
We discuss about leadership because we believe that individuals in teams should act as a leader. So, and apart from this situational leadership by Blanchard, people in team act as a leader and take responsibility on their shoulders. They are active participant of meetings. They have ideas and actively participate also in the discussions. Maybe it would be good to define also what we understand by leadership. So I believe that right now I'm a leader, also Paweł is a leader, and also all of you are leaders. But I suppose that in some organization, leader is defined as a person who managed the team explicitly. So maybe our understanding of leadership is different.
Okay, thank you.
Here was a question.
Yeah, but unfortunately we ran out of time, so you'll have to take the questions offline, as we usually do. So thank you very much. Big applause to Izabela and Paweł.
Thank you.
Thank you.